My name is Maria Collins, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado, but a few months ago, I traveled to Las Vegas for a 3-day work conference. My company had booked me a room at a well-known resort, one that advertised luxury and comfort. I was excited, but also a little uneasy. Being away from home in a place where I didn't know anyone, I reassured myself that I'd only be there for a couple of nights. The first day was uneventful. I attended the conference, mingled with a few colleagues, and returned to my room in the evening, tired but content. By the second night, though, things took a turn that I'll never forget. Around 8 p.m., I decided to order room service. I wasn't in the mood to go out, so I called for a light dinner, just a salad and some soup. About 20 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to see a man in a waiter's uniform, holding a tray of food. He looked to be in his mid-40s, with a scruffy beard and a slightly disheveled appearance. His smile was too wide, and he stared at me just a little too long. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, handing over the tray. "Are you enjoying your stay so far?" I nodded politely and thanked him, but then he asked, "Are you staying alone, or is your husband around?" Something about his tone made my stomach tighten. I didn't want to let him know I was alone, so I lied. "My husband's out grabbing some drinks," I said, forcing a smile. "He'll be back soon." The man's expressions faltered for a split second, before he smiled again, nodded, and left. I locked the door and double-checked it, feeling uneasy but trying to brush it off. Maybe I was overthinking it. That night, I went to bed around 11 p.m. After a while, I managed to drift into a light sleep. At some point, I woke up suddenly, unsure of what had disturbed me. My room was dark, and the only sound was the low hum of the air conditioner. I glanced at the clock. It was 3:07 a.m. Then I heard it, the faint sound of someone jiggling my door handle. My heart dropped. At first, I thought it might be housekeeping, or another guest confused about their room. But when the jiggling stopped, and I heard a soft scraping noise, panic set in. I crept to the door as quietly as I could and looked through the peephole. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was the waiter from earlier, but he wasn't holding a tray this time. He was gripping a crowbar, his eyes darting up and down the hallway, as if making sure no one was around. My hands started trembling as I backed away from the door. I grabbed my phone and dialed the front desk, trying to keep my voice unsteady. "There's a man outside my door trying to break in," I whispered. "He has a crowbar. Please send security right now." The receptionist sounded alarmed and assured me that help was on the way. Those next few minutes felt like hours. I stood in the corner of the room, clutching my phone, listening to the faint scraping at the door. Then I heard voices in the hallway. "Sir, drop the weapon and step back," someone shouted. A scuffle followed, and then silence. A few moments later, there was a knock at my door. "Ma'am, it's hotel security. You're safe now." I opened the door cautiously to find 2 security guards standing there. They told me they had apprehended the man, and the police were on their way. One of the guards stayed with me while the other explained what had happened. It turned out the man wasn't even an employee anymore. He had been fired weeks earlier for inappropriate behavior, but had stolen a uniform and a master key before leaving. He had been sneaking into the hotel, targeting women staying alone, and breaking into their rooms to rob them, or worse. The police arrived shortly after and arrested him. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, sitting in the chair by the window, too terrified to even lie down. The next morning, the hotel staff apologized profusely and offered me another room, but I couldn't stay there. I checked out immediately and caught an early flight home. Even now, months later, I still feel a chill when I think about that night. If I hadn't lied about my husband, or if I hadn't woken up in time, who knows what could have happened? That experience taught me to trust my gut and to always be cautious, especially when traveling alone. My name is Tom Peters. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm a sales manager, and business trips are a routine part of my life. I've stayed in countless hotels over the years, Some luxurious, some less so, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened during my recent trip to Chicago. It was late when I arrived at the hotel, a mid-tier establishment that seemed decent enough for a 2-night stay. The receptionist, a young woman with tired eyes, handed me the key to room 512. She hesitated for a moment, her lips parting as if to say something, but then she simply wished me a good night. I was too exhausted to think much of it and took the elevator up to my room. Room 512 was average, a queen-size bed, a desk, and a small bathroom. I unpacked, took a quick shower, and settled in for the night. Around 11 p.m., as I was brushing my teeth, I heard the faint click of the door unlocking. I froze, toothbrush in hand. As the door creaked open, a man stepped inside, his face a mixture of surprise and confusion. He was tall, mid-40s, with a scruffy beard and a weathered jacket. In his hand, he held up a key card. "This is my room," he said firmly, his eyes narrowing as they locked onto mine. I felt a chill run down my spine. "No, it's not," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The front desk gave me this room." He frowned, waving the key card again. "Look, 512, this is my room." I stepped back into the bathroom and grabbed my phone. "Hold on, I'll call the front desk," I said, dialing the number with shaky fingers. The receptionist answered almost immediately. "There's a man in my room," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "He says this is his room." The receptionist's tone was firm. "Sir, that's not possible. Your key card is the only one assigned to room 512. I looked at the man, who was now standing in the doorway, glaring at me. "He has a key card too," I whispered into the phone. There was a pause. "I don't know how that could happen," the receptionist said. "I'll send security right away." Before I could respond, the man's demeanor changed. He lunged at me, his hands reaching out as if to grab me. Instinct took over, and I slammed the bathroom door shut, locking it just in time. My heart was pounding as I pressed my weight against the door, hearing him curse and pound on it from the other side. Minutes felt like hours. I called the front desk again, shouting for them to hurry. The man's pounding grew more frantic, and then it stopped. For a moment, there was silence. I held my breath, afraid he might be trying to trick me. Suddenly, I heard voices outside the room. Security had arrived. I cautiously opened the bathroom door and found 2 guards restraining the man. His face was twisted with rage, and he was shouting incoherently. On the floor beside him was a bag he had dropped. During the struggle, one of the guards opened it, revealing duct tape, a rope, and a large knife. My stomach turned. I backed away, unable to process what I was seeing. The guards escorted the man out, and the receptionist came up to apologize profusely. She explained that there had been a mix-up. The room had been double booked by mistake, but she had no idea how the man had obtained a working key card. The police arrived shortly after and took my statement. They informed me that the man was not a guest at the hotel and that his intentions were clearly sinister. I spent the rest of the night in a different room, but sleep was out of the question. My mind kept replaying the moment he lunged at me and the horrifying contents of his bag. The next morning, the hotel's manager offered me a free stay at any of their locations as compensation. I declined. No amount of free nights could erase the terror I had felt. I checked out early, opting to cut my trip short and head back to Denver. Even now, weeks later, I find myself double-checking locks and peeking through peepholes in every hotel I stay in. That night was a grim reminder that even the most mundane trips can take a dark and unexpected turn. My name is Jenna Brooks. I'm 29 years old and live in Austin, Texas. I work as a graphic designer, and after months of tight deadlines and late nights, I decided to treat myself to a weekend getaway. I booked a luxury hotel in downtown Dallas, hoping for a few days of rest and relaxation. Little did I know, the trip would turn into one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. The first day at the hotel was everything I needed. I lounged by the pool, indulged in room service, and slept like a baby. On the second morning, I went down to the breakfast buffet around 8 a.m. When I returned to my room at 9:30, I immediately noticed something was off. The room was spotless, which wasn't unusual for a high-end hotel, but my suitcase was open on the bed. Clothes were pulled out, some hanging over the edges, as if someone had been rummaging through them. I felt my chest tighten. I was certain I hadn't left it like that. I quickly called the front desk, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hi, I think housekeeping cleaned my room already, but they went through my things. My suitcase is open." There was a pause before the receptionist responded. "Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but our housekeeping staff hasn't serviced your room yet this morning." A cold wave of fear washed over me. "Are you sure? Someone was definitely in here." "I'm positive," the receptionist said firmly. "I'll send security up to check immediately." Within minutes, a security officer arrived. He inspected the room and suggested we check the CCTV footage. My heart raced as we made our way to the security office. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Even in the brightly lit hallway, when the footage played, my stomach dropped. At 8:15 a.m., while I was downstairs eating breakfast, a man dressed in a housekeeping uniform used a key card to enter my room. He wasn't carrying any cleaning supplies, and his movements were quick and deliberate. He was in the room for about 15 minutes before leaving, glancing over his shoulder as he walked out. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Is he part of your staff?" The security officer shook his head. "I don't recognize him. Let me check with the manager." The rest of the day passed in a haze. The hotel management apologized profusely, assuring me they were investigating. They offered to move me to another room, but I declined. I didn't think switching rooms would make me feel any safer. Instead, I barricaded the door with the desk and a chair, double-checking the lock multiple times before going to bed. I tried to sleep, but every sound made me jump. By 2 a.m., I was still wide awake, staring at the ceiling. That's when I heard it. The faint sound of someone jiggling the doorknob. My heart stopped. Then came the unmistakable sound of something scraping against the lock, like someone trying to pick it. I grabbed my phone and dialed the front desk. "Someone is trying to break into my room," I whispered urgently. The receptionist's voice was calm but serious. "Stay on the line, security is on the way." I sat frozen on the bed, clutching my phone. The scraping stopped, replaced by silence. Minutes later, I heard heavy footsteps and muffled voices in the hallway. I peeked through the peephole and saw 2 security officers outside. They gestured for me to open the door. When I finally let them in, they explained they had found a man hiding in the laundry room on the same floor. It was the same man from the CCTV footage. He had been carrying a set of stolen key cards, including a master key. When the police arrived, the man confessed to targeting women traveling alone, using the stolen key cards to gain access to their rooms. He admitted he'd been watching me since I checked in. The hotel manager apologized again and offered me a full refund, along with free stays at their other properties. I declined. I just wanted to get out of there. By sunrise, I had checked out and was on my way back to Austin. Even now, I can't shake the paranoia. Every time I stay in a hotel, I check the locks multiple times and wedge a chair under the doorknob. That weekend was supposed to be a peaceful escape, but it turned into a nightmare that I'll never forget.